Have you ever walked into a room and it immediately felt cozy, or maybe sterile, or a bit weird, and you couldn't quite put your finger on why? That wasn't furniture, and it's definitely not the layout. That was color temperature. And here's the thing. I know color temperature, it sounds like something that only photographers would care about, but really, it's emotional warfare. Designers use color all the time to make you feel warm, cool, hungry, safe, excited, you name it. Sometimes all of the above. Warm colors sell you coffee. Cool colors sell you tech startups. And if you mix them up or use them wrong, then you accidentally sell confusion. So today's video is all about color temperature. What it is, why it matters, why beginners ignore it, and why it might be actually one of the most powerful tools in graphic design. Let's get into it. Color temperature at its simplest. Warm colors, red, orange, yellow. Cool colors, blue, green, purple. That's it. But it's not just a color wheel thing. It actually comes from light and nature. Firelight, warm. Sunlight, warm. Golden hour, warm. And when you think of shadows in nature, what do you think about? You think about cool. Water, cool. Nighttime, you guessed it, cool. Now here's the fun twist. Scientifically, blue flames burn hotter than red flames, but emotionally, humans perceive red as hotter and blue as cool. And that perception matters in design. Design is not physics, design is psychology. Warm colors, they feel loud, energetic, passionate, urgent, sometimes very aggressive, whereas cool colors, they feel calm, safe, controlled, clean, trustworthy, distant. And that is why fast food brands lean towards warm colors. Think about McDonald's, red and yellow. That's very energetic. It is very loud and appetite stimulating. Now let's think about social media and tech. Facebook, blue. It symbolizes things like trust, stability, familiarity. Even Apple leans more towards cool and neutral. And that is because it's clean, controlled, and premium. None of this is random. If a spa used a color like red, you would feel stressed before you even walked in. Temperature directs emotion before typography even has a chance. This is where I get ranty. When I was in design school, there was a lot of emphasis placed on artistic expression. But in marketing design, temperature is strategic. You are choosing the climate for your audience. Wellness brands of today often use neutrals, earthy beiges and clay tones, soft terracottas. It feels human, organic, and grounded. And luxury brands, they often use cooler, often saturated tones. Deep navy, charcoal, cool grayscales. It feels controlled and exclusive. And tech startups usually use cool blues, cyan, and clean gradients. Coffee shops, warm browns, deep rusty colors and creamy yellows. And what's interesting about all of this is that trends usually shift. A few years ago, everything was super minimal and icy cool. And now we're seeing warmer, earthier palettes everywhere. Design trends are literally temperature cycles. And when brands get this wrong, it tends to feel very off, even if you can't really explain why. Temperature is not just branding, it's visual storytelling. Let's take a look at the Matrix. Everything in the simulated world has this cool green tint. It feels artificial, detached, and controlled. Now let's look at Mad Max Fury Road. We get like this intense orange desert heat. It gives you just this internal feeling that you're in a world that's violent, relentless. Or even look at Breaking Bad where you get those yellow desert tones. That gives you like this feeling of tension, heat, and moral decay. So you could think about it like warm equals intensity, whereas cool equals distance. The reason I'm bringing up film right now is because it's the most direct way that I could give you an example about how temperature really guides our emotions scene by scene. Designers can and should do the same. Now let's talk about mistakes. Mistake number one, using all warm colors at full saturation. If everything is warm and loud, your design screams. There is no breathing room for your viewer. Mistake number 2, mixing warm and cool without intention. If you ever see a design where something feels slightly off and you can't really put a finger on what exactly that is, it's often that there's a temperature conflict. Like, I don't know, an example could be like a super cool blue background with maybe a really warm orange red headline that just doesn't belong together. Like, you get what I mean? Like, it's not in harmony at all. And mistake number 3, ignoring context. A color that feels warm on your laptop will feel completely different when you print. Lighting affects temperature perception, and the surrounding colors shift your perception. Temperature is relational. It doesn't exist in isolation. And here's where we get a little bit deeper. Not all blues are cool. There are warm blues, like blues that lean slightly more towards purple. And there are cool reds, ones that lean slightly towards magenta. Even neutrals have temperature. Beige, it could be warm or cool. Even gray could be warm or cool. White could be warm or cool. This is where designers level up. You stop thinking about colors like simply as what color is this, and start thinking instead, what temperature bias does this color have? Because a warm gray next to a cool gray could clash subtly. And subtle clashes are what separates amateur from intentional design. Temperature contrast could also create depth. Warm colors tend to advance, and cool colors, they tend to recede. That's why landscapes work. Warm foreground, cool background, instant depth. You could use color temperature in this way to create hierarchy without changing the size of anything at all. That's power. When I first started designing, I mainly focused on hue contrast. Is it readable? Is it bold enough? Is it loud enough? Does it pop? But over time, especially working in marketing, I started noticing how temperature changes the entire mood of a project. Even living in Malaysia versus growing up in Santa Fe, the environmental palettes are different. Tropical environments, it tends to feel more warm and saturated, whereas the Southwest desert has those dusty, warm neutrals. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like those adobe tones and the sun-baked clay. And environment shapes taste. And whenever I'm designing now, I always ask, what's the emotional climate that I'm designing for? Is the brand warm and welcoming? Or is it more cool and authoritative? Maybe it's balanced. Temperature is the first decision that I make now. Color temperature isn't just warm versus cool. It is emotional direction. It's psychological framing. It's atmosphere. Every time that you are designing, you are creating the emotional climate that someone is stepping into. So next time that you feel something from a brand, a website, or a movie, pause and ask yourself, is it warm or cool? Because once you start training yourself to notice temperature, you really can't unsee it. And once you can control it, then you're not just choosing colors anymore. You're controlling the weather. But okay, guys, that's all I have for you right now. I hope you enjoyed this video on color temperature. If you did, go ahead and give it a like. Subscribe for more videos just like this because I make them every single week. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!